Get off this jet right now. You don't belong here. You just made the biggest mistake of your career.
Get off this aircraft, Mom, now. The words were sharp enough to freeze the cabin. Monica Reynolds stood at the doorway of the private jet, one hand on the polished metal rail, the other gripping a worn leather laptop bag. The morning wind pushed against her gray hoodie. Her sneakers were damp from the dew on the tarmac. She looked tired, ordinary, like a woman who had slept badly and wanted nothing more than silence. That was all Deborah Walker needed to see. Deborah stood in the jet's doorway in a navy uniform pressed so clean it looked almost carved. Her blonde hair was pulled tight at the back of her head. Not one strand moved. Her smile was there, but it had no warmth in it. "Can I help you?" she asked. Not welcome aboard, not good morning. Just that. Monica looked up at her. The sun was still low behind the hangar, and for a second she had to squint. "I'm Monica Reynolds," she said. "I'm booked on this flight." Deborah did not move. Her eyes traveled from Monica's hoodie to her jeans, then to the old laptop bag resting against her hip. The look was quick, but not quick enough to hide what it meant. Doubt. Suspicion. Dismissal. "This is a private charter," Deborah said. "The client has not arrived yet." Monica breathed in slowly through her nose. She had been awake since before dawn. She had spent the past week in Washington, sitting through contract reviews, board calls, and meetings where everyone wanted a piece of her time. Her head ached. Her shoulders were tight. She did not have the strength for another person's prejudice, wrapped in customer service language. "I am the client," she said. Behind Deborah, a younger flight attendant paused near the galley. Emily Parker, 29, quiet eyes, nervous hands. She heard the words. She also saw Deborah's face harden. Deborah gave a small laugh, not loud, not friendly. "Mom, I'm going to need identification." Monica reached into her hoodie pocket and pulled out her phone. Her fingers moved with slow patience. She opened the confirmation email and turned the screen toward Deborah. Name, tail number, departure time, Savannah. Everything was there. Deborah leaned closer, looked at the screen, then looked back at Monica. This could be anyone's phone. Emily's lips parted slightly. She looked down, then back up, caught between training and conscience. Monica saw it. She saw the fear in the younger woman's eyes, the fear of speaking too early, the fear of crossing the wrong senior employee, the fear so many decent people mistake for professionalism. "It's my phone," Monica said, "with my name on my flight." For 3 seconds, nobody moved. The engines were quiet. Somewhere across the tarmac, a fuel truck beeped as it reversed. The sound felt too normal for the insult hanging in the air. Deborah finally stepped aside, but only a little. Monica had to turn her shoulder to pass through the doorway. As she did, Deborah pulled back as if contact with her would leave a stain. Monica noticed. She always noticed. She had spent a lifetime noticing the tiny movements people thought did not matter. The guarded purse, the extra security check, the surprised pause before someone called her mom, the way respect appeared only after a title did. Inside, the jet was beautiful. Cream leather seats, soft gold light, warm wood panels polished until they reflected the morning. A folded cashmere blanket waited on the forward seat. Fresh white roses sat in a narrow glass vase. Her seat, her plane, her quiet. Monica lowered herself into the forward chair and placed her bag beside her. For a moment, she closed her eyes. Maybe Deborah would stop there. Maybe the flight would be uncomfortable, but brief. Maybe silence could protect her peace. Then Deborah's heels clicked toward her. "Excuse me," Deborah said. Monica opened her eyes. Deborah stood over her, arms folded. "That seat is reserved for the primary client." Monica looked at her for a long moment. "I know," she said softly. "That is why I'm sitting in it." Deborah's smile disappeared, and somewhere in the cabin, Emily stopped breathing for half a second. Monica did not move from the forward seat. She only looked at Deborah with the kind of stillness that made the air feel smaller. For most of her life, Monica had learned that some people did not need proof. They needed permission to see you as human, and if they had already decided not to, no document in the world could save you from their imagination. Deborah shifted her weight. Her jaw tightened. "I was informed the primary client may be sending someone on her behalf," she said. A representative. Staff. Someone from the office. Monica rested one hand on the armrest. Who informed you? Deborah blinked once. The manifest indicates Ms. Reynolds, she said. That's me. I understand what you're saying. No, Monica said quietly. You understand what you want to understand. Emily looked up from the galley. Her fingers were wrapped around a white cloth napkin she had folded twice already. She wanted to say something. She wanted to say the manifest had only one passenger. She wanted to say the ground team had cleared Monica before arrival. She wanted to say this was wrong. But Deborah had seniority. Deborah wrote evaluations. Deborah knew supervisors by first name. Deborah had a way of making people regret embarrassing her. So Emily stayed silent. That silence weighed on her immediately. Outside, the ground crew gave the final signal. The cabin door closed with a heavy seal. The soft hiss of pressurization filled the cabin. A moment later, Captain Robert Hayes came over the speaker. Good morning. We are cleared for departure to Savannah. Weather is smooth along the route. Flight time should be a little under 3 hours. His voice was calm, routine, polished. Monica leaned back and turned her face toward the oval window. The tarmac slid past. Hangars, fuel trucks, men in reflective vests. The early light spread across the runway like pale gold. For a few seconds, she let herself believe the worst was over. Then Deborah walked past her without offering water. She entered the cockpit with a tray. Coffee in a porcelain cup, a warm croissant wrapped in linen, a small bowl of fruit, a hot towel rolled with perfect care. Monica watched the cockpit door open. Deborah's voice softened instantly. Here you go, Captain. Fresh coffee. Just how you like it. Captain Hayes chuckled. You spoil us, Deborah? That's what I'm here for. The door closed. Deborah came back through the cabin and did not look at Monica. Not once. The scent of butter and coffee drifted behind her. Monica looked down at her hands. They were steady, but there was a coldness moving up her arms. It was not shock. She was too old for shock. It was recognition. The tired kind. The kind that says, here we are again. She pressed the call button. A soft chime sounded. The amber light above her seat came on. Deborah stood only a few steps away in the galley. She looked at the light. Then she looked down at the service drawer and began rearranging silverware that was already straight. 1 minute passed, then 2. The engines deepened as the jet climbed. The cabin tilted gently upward. Monica waited. She did not press the button again. She did not call out. She simply watched. Emily watched, too. At the 4th minute, Emily swallowed. At the 5th, she stepped forward. Mom, Emily said softly, approaching Monica's seat. I'm sorry about the wait. Can I get you something? Monica turned to her. Her eyes were tired but not unkind. Black coffee, please. Of course. Emily moved toward the galley. Deborah shut the drawer with a sharp snap. What are you doing? She asked. Emily froze. She pressed the call button. I saw it. She asked for coffee. Deborah stepped closer, her voice lowered, but not enough. I decide when service happens on this aircraft. Emily's cheeks flushed. It's just coffee. Deborah stared at her until the younger woman looked away. Then Deborah leaned in, her words thin and cutting. That woman is not our usual client. I don't care what name she gave. I have worked private aviation for 25 years. I know what ownership looks like. Emily felt something in her chest drop. Ownership looks like. The phrase sat there, ugly and exposed. Monica heard it. She did not turn around right away. She looked out the window instead, watching the clouds open beneath them. Her reflection stared back from the glass. Gray hoodie, bare face, tired eyes. A woman Deborah believed had wandered into the wrong life. Slowly, Monica reached into her pocket. Her thumb found the voice memo app. She pressed record. Then she set the phone face down against the soft cotton of her hoodie and looked forward again. Coffee, she said gently, without raising her voice. Emily picked up the cup with trembling hands. Deborah watched her. And for the first time that morning, Monica understood this would not be a bad flight. It would be evidence. Emily set the coffee down as carefully as if the cup were made of glass, thin enough to break from fear. Thank you, Monica said. Her voice was soft. Too soft for what had just happened. Emily nodded, but she did not leave right away. Her eyes moved to Monica's pocket, then to Deborah, then back to Monica's face. She did not know about the recording. She only knew that something in the cabin had shifted, not loudly, not visibly, but enough to make her skin tighten. "I'm sorry," Emily whispered. Monica looked at her. For a second, Emily thought she might be scolded, not by Deborah, by Monica, for waiting too long, for obeying the wrong person, for standing close to injustice and calling it procedure. But Monica only said, "Be careful who teaches you what professionalism means." Emily swallowed. The words landed gently. That made them hurt more. Deborah's voice cut in from the galley. "Emily." The younger attendant stepped back at once. "Yes, Mom. Inventory. Now." Emily returned to the galley, cheeks burning. Deborah did not look at her. She looked at Monica instead. The coffee was lukewarm. Monica lifted it anyway. She took one slow sip and set the cup down. Her laptop sat open on the polished table in front of her. Spreadsheets filled the screen. Contract language, vendor notes, flight logistics, numbers that would make most board members lean forward. Deborah came down the aisle, pretending to inspect the cabin. She pressed one pillow flat. She adjusted a window shade by 1/2 inch. She lifted a blanket and set it down in the same place. Her heels struck the floor with small, hard clicks. Then she stopped beside Monica. Her eyes dropped to the laptop. Monica felt her standing there, but did not look up. Deborah tilted her head. "Busy morning?" she asked. Monica kept typing. "Yes." "Work trip?" "Yes." Deborah gave a short breath through her nose. It was almost a laugh. "What line of work?" Monica paused. She could have answered. She could have said aerospace investment, federal contracting, aviation systems. She could have named companies Deborah had likely served without ever knowing who owned them. She could have ended the game in one sentence. But that was not the point. Respect that arrives only after power is revealed is not respect. It is fear dressed up as manners. So Monica said, "Business." Deborah smiled, of course. The word was flat, heavy, filled with insult. Emily heard it from the galley and looked down at the napkins in her hands. She folded one corner too sharply and tore it. Her stomach turned. Deborah leaned closer, just enough for her perfume to reach Monica. Lavender and something bitter. "You know," she said, "some clients send assistants ahead to review documents. That does not make them the client." Monica's fingers stopped over the keyboard. The cabin hummed. The jet moved smoothly through the morning sky, high above the quiet farms and rivers below. Up there, everything looked clean, peaceful, small. But inside that cabin, a woman in uniform was turning a workplace into a courtroom, and she had already decided the verdict. Monica turned her head slowly. "Is there something you need, Miss Walker?" Deborah's smile tightened. So Monica had read her name tag. Good. Deborah liked when people knew who was in charge. "I need you to understand the level of discretion expected on this aircraft," Deborah said. "This is not a commercial flight. We serve high-profile individuals. There are standards." Monica looked at her for a long moment. "And which standard am I failing?" Deborah did not answer quickly enough. That pause said more than words. Emily looked up. Captain Hayes did not come out of the cockpit. He could hear some of it. Not every word, but enough. He told himself senior cabin crew handled passenger matters. He told himself Monica sounded calm. He told himself it was not his place unless safety was involved. That was how harm often survived. Not through one loud villain, through quiet people making small excuses. Deborah straightened. "I'm simply saying you should be mindful of how you conduct yourself." Monica nodded once. "I have been seated, quiet, working, waiting for coffee." Deborah's face flushed. For the first time, she looked embarrassed. Not sorry, embarrassed. There is a difference. She glanced toward Emily, as if checking whether the younger woman had heard. Emily lowered her eyes too late. Deborah saw it. Her control slipped another inch. "You may think this is amusing," Deborah said, voice lower now, "but I know when something does not feel right." Monica closed her laptop halfway. The movement was calm, final. "Then document it," she said. "If you believe there is a problem, write it down. Put your name on it. Be specific." Deborah stared at her. The words stripped away the fog. No hints, no coded language, no tone, no instinct. Only facts. And facts were dangerous when the truth was ugly. Deborah turned and walked back toward the galley, each step harder than the last. Emily stood perfectly still as Deborah passed. "Do not serve her again unless I tell you," Deborah said under her breath. Emily's mouth went dry. Monica heard that too. In her hoodie pocket, the phone kept recording. And now the flight was no longer about getting to Savannah. It was about what people reveal when they think no one important is listening. Deborah waited almost 20 minutes before she came back. Not because she needed to, because she wanted Monica to feel the space between them. The quiet denial. The invisible hand pressing her down without ever touching her. Monica had seen that kind of power before. It lived in offices where receptionists asked if she was there to deliver something. It lived in banks where loan officers smiled until they read her net worth. It lived in country clubs, hotels, elevators, restaurants, always dressed in politeness, always pretending to be procedure. But the older she got, the more clearly she understood something. People reveal themselves most honestly when they think there will be no consequence. Deborah returned with a clipboard tucked against her chest. Emily saw it and stiffened. There was no reason for a clipboard. Not now. The passenger was seated. The aircraft was stable. The flight was smooth. There was no service issue, no medical issue, no safety alert. Just Deborah walking down the aisle with the posture of a woman inventing authority as she went. Monica looked up before Deborah spoke. "Mom," Deborah said, "I need to conduct a security inspection of your carry-on item." The words sounded official. That was the point. Monica's expression did not change. "My carry-on item?" "Yes." "For what reason?" "Passenger verification." Monica closed her laptop fully this time. The soft click carried through the cabin. "There is no passenger verification search once a private aircraft is airborne," Monica said. "Not under normal charter procedures. Not without cause." Deborah's eyes narrowed. "Are you refusing a safety instruction?" Emily took one small step forward, then stopped. That phrase had weight in aviation. Everyone knew it. Refusing a crew instruction could be made to sound like a federal issue, even when the instruction itself was unreasonable. It was a phrase people used when they wanted to turn discomfort into danger. Monica knew that too. She had sat across from enough legal teams, regulators, and aviation consultants to recognize a weapon when someone dressed it up as policy. "I am refusing to have my personal property searched without a valid reason," Monica said. Deborah tapped the clipboard with one finger. "The reason is that I have concerns." "What concerns?" Deborah hesitated. Again, the pause told the truth. Monica leaned back slightly. "Be specific." The cabin seemed to tighten around them. The engines hummed. The china in the galley gave a faint rattle. Somewhere behind Deborah, Emily's breath caught. Deborah's face hardened. "You arrived without proper identification. I showed my confirmation. You were evasive. I answered every question. You have been challenging crew authority since boarding." Monica looked at her. "I asked for coffee." Deborah's lips pressed into a thin line. For 1 second, she looked almost cornered. Then pride came in and rescued her from reflection. "I need to see inside your bag," she said. "No." The word landed clean. No anger, no tremble, no apology, just no. Deborah stared at Monica as if she had been slapped by the refusal itself. "Excuse me?" "No," Monica repeated. "You will not search my bag." Deborah's right hand tightened around the clipboard. Emily could see the color rising in her neck. She had seen Deborah angry before. Angry at vendors. Angry at junior staff. Angry at passengers who did not flatter her. But this was different. Monica was not begging. She was not defending herself. She was not performing innocence for someone who had already judged her. She was simply refusing to bow. That made Deborah reckless. "If you do not cooperate," Deborah said, "I can notify the captain that we have an unverified passenger refusing security protocol." Monica's eyes stayed on hers. "Then notify him." Deborah did not move. The silence stretched. She had expected fear, a raised voice, a stumble, something she could use. But Monica gave her none of it. So Deborah turned toward the overhead bin. Emily's face went pale. "Deborah," she said quietly. Deborah ignored her. She reached up and opened the compartment above Monica's seat. The latch snapped louder than it should have. Monica's leather bag sat alone inside, tucked neatly against the side wall. "Do not touch my belongings," Monica said. Deborah grabbed the handle. Emily stepped forward. Ms. Walker, maybe we should ask the captain first. Deborah spun toward her. Go back to the galley. Emily froze. Now, the word cracked across the cabin. Emily's eyes filled with shame, but she moved back. Slowly, like each step cost her something. Deborah pulled the bag from the bin. The strap slipped, and a pen dropped from the side pocket. It struck the floor and rolled beneath the forward seat. Small sound, huge moment. Monica stood, not fast, not dramatic. She rose with quiet control, taller than Deborah, shoulders squared, face calm. Put the bag back, she said. Deborah held it against her chest. You do not give me orders. Monica looked at the bag, then back at her. I am asking you to return property you had no right to take. Deborah leaned closer. Her voice dropped into something cold. You people always think calm makes you powerful. Emily's hand flew to her mouth. The words were out now. No policy, no procedure, just the thing underneath. Monica did not blink. In her hoodie pocket, the recording continued. And Deborah, still not knowing who stood in front of her, tightened her grip on the wrong woman's bag. Monica looked at Deborah's hand wrapped around the leather strap. Not at Deborah's face. Not yet. The bag mattered first. It held her laptop, her contracts, her notes from a week of meetings that could change the future of a dozen companies. It held work built by people who trusted her, people who had stayed late, missed dinners, and bet their careers on her judgment. To Deborah, it was just a bag. To Monica, it was responsibility. Return it, Monica said. Deborah's breathing grew heavier. Her chest rose beneath the navy uniform. The gold wings on her jacket caught the cabin light and flashed like something sharp. You are not in charge here, Deborah said. Monica lifted her eyes. I am not asking who is in charge. I am asking you not to steal from me. The word struck Deborah in the face. Steal. Emily heard it from the galley and went still. Deborah's mouth opened slightly, then closed. Her face changed, not fear, not guilt, rage. The kind that comes when a person used to control is suddenly named correctly. How dare you, Deborah whispered. How dare I ask for my own property? Deborah stepped closer. You have been disrespectful from the moment you boarded. Monica did not step back. I have been quieter than most people would be. That does not make you innocent. No, Monica said. It makes you exposed. The cabin seemed to lose air. Deborah's fingers tightened around the bag until the leather creaked. Emily's heart was beating so hard she could feel it in her throat. She knew she should move. She knew she should get the captain. But her feet would not obey. Shame held her in place. Fear held her harder. From the cockpit, Captain Robert Hayes heard raised voices and turned his head slightly. He had flown executives, celebrities, politicians, men who treated airplanes like private dining rooms. He had seen difficult passengers. He had also seen difficult crew. But Deborah had been with Skyvault for years. She knew the system. She knew the language. He told himself he would step out if it escalated. That was the lie people tell before they become part of the harm. Deborah leaned in until she was close enough for Monica to see the fine lines around her mouth. I don't know who put your name on that paperwork, Deborah said. I don't know whose office you walked out of, but people like you do not belong in spaces like this. Emily closed her eyes. There it was, clear, no hiding. Monica felt the words enter her like cold water. Not because she had never heard them before, because every time they carried the weight of every older woman who had swallowed them in silence. Her mother in a hospital hallway, her aunt at a mortgage office, her first mentor in a hotel lobby, being asked if she was part of housekeeping while wearing a name badge that said keynote speaker. Monica's voice dropped. I want your full name and employee identification number. Deborah blinked. I beg your pardon? You heard me. Deborah gave a tight, humorless laugh. You think you can file a complaint and scare me? I think you should write down what you just said and sign it. Deborah's face twisted. For the first time, she looked less like a senior attendant and more like a person whose mask had been pulled off in public. She looked toward Emily, saw the horror on the younger woman's face, and knew she had gone too far. But people like Deborah rarely stop when they cross the line. They try to move the line behind them. Monica reached for the bag. Deborah jerked it back. Do not touch me, Deborah snapped. I am taking my property. Monica extended her hand again, slow and visible. Her fingers brushed the strap. Deborah grabbed Monica's wrist. Hard. Emily gasped. "Deborah, stop." The cockpit door opened a few inches. Captain Hayes looked out. Monica stared at Deborah's fingers pressing into her skin. The grip hurt. It would leave marks. But she did not pull away immediately. She wanted the moment to be exactly what it was. Then she freed her wrist with one firm motion. "Take your hand off me," Monica said. Deborah's face went red. It happened fast. Too fast for Emily to stop. Too fast for the captain to understand. Deborah swung her open hand across Monica's face. The slap cracked through the cabin. Sharp. Ugly. Final. Monica's head turned with the impact. Heat bloomed across her cheek. Her hand rose halfway, then stopped. She did not give Deborah the satisfaction of seeing her crumble. Emily stood frozen, tears already gathering in her eyes. Captain Hayes opened the cockpit door wider. What the hell happened? Deborah was breathing hard. Her hand still hovered in the air. "She became aggressive," Deborah said quickly. "She lunged at me." Monica slowly turned back. Her cheek was already darkening. Her eyes were calm, too calm. "That," Monica said, each word quiet and clear, "was the worst decision of your career." Captain Hayes stood in the cockpit doorway, with one hand braced against the frame. For a moment, he looked like a man waking up inside someone else's mistake. Deborah lowered her hand slowly. Her face changed fast, too fast. The fury vanished, and in its place came something smoother, something practiced. Concern. "She grabbed me," Deborah said. She refused a security check and became physical. Emily turned toward her. "That is not what happened." Deborah's head snapped in her direction. The warning in her eyes was immediate. Emily felt it like a hand around her throat. She had seen that look before, in crew lounges, in debriefings, in the quiet punishment that followed anyone who challenged Deborah Walker. Bad shifts, bad evaluations, rumors, career damage that never came with fingerprints. But Monica's cheek was red. The sound of the slap was still alive in the cabin. Emily's voice shook, but she forced it out again. "That is not what happened," she said. Captain Hayes looked between them. He should have asked questions, separate questions, calm questions. He should have secured the cabin. He should have treated physical contact by crew as the serious incident it was. He knew the manual. He had signed the training forms. He had sat through the company briefings about escalation, bias, and duty of care. But policy on paper is easy. Courage in real time is harder. "Everyone needs to calm down," he said. Monica turned to him slowly. "My calm is not the issue, Captain." The sentence was quiet, but it cut clean. Hayes swallowed. He saw the mark on her face now. 4 faint lines forming across the left cheek. He saw Deborah clutching the bag that did not belong to her. He saw Emily trembling near the galley. The truth was not hard to find. It was hard to choose. "Ms. Reynolds," he said carefully, "we are about an hour from Savannah. I think the best thing is for everyone to remain seated until we land. We can sort this out on the ground." Monica stared at him. "Your flight attendant assaulted me." Hayes shifted his weight. "I understand there was a confrontation." "No," Monica said. "There was an assault." Deborah stepped in quickly. "Captain, I did what I had to do to maintain safety." She was non-compliant. She refused inspection. She reached for me. Emily's eyes filled again. "No," she reached for her bag. Deborah hissed her name, "Emily." This time, Emily did not look away. Something inside her had cracked open. Fear was still there, but shame had become heavier. She looked at Monica, and for the first time all morning, she understood that silence was not neutral. Silence had a side. Captain Hayes lifted a hand. "Enough. Deborah, put the bag back." Deborah froze. It was the first correction she had received all morning. Her face tightened, but she turned and shoved the leather bag back into the overhead bin. The movement was rough. A zipper caught briefly on the edge before the bag slid in. She snapped the bin shut. Monica watched every second. Hayes stepped farther into the cabin. "Ms. Reynolds, I'll make a note of the incident after landing." "No," Monica said. "You will make a note now." Hayes blinked. "Time, location, people present, visible injury, crew involvement, witness present." Her voice had changed, not louder, sharper. It had the tone of someone who had spent years in rooms where consequences were measured in contracts, regulations, and signatures. For the first time, Hayes wondered if they had misread her. Not completely, catastrophically. Deborah noticed it too. Her eyes narrowed at Monica, trying to solve what her prejudice had made impossible to see. Hayes cleared his throat. I can document it when the aircraft is secure. The aircraft is secure, Monica said. Your employee is not. The words hung in the cabin. Emily took a breath so small it barely moved her shoulders. Hayes looked toward the cockpit, then back at Monica. He wanted the flight to end. He wanted the problem contained. That was the old instinct of companies that survived by smoothing things over instead of making them right. But Monica was not asking to be soothed. She was building a record. I will need your full name, she said to Deborah, and your employee identification number. Deborah gave a brittle laugh. You are not entitled to that. Monica looked at Hayes. Captain? Hayes hesitated. The hesitation told Monica everything she needed to know. She reached into her hoodie pocket and pulled out her phone. The recording was still running. The timer had crossed 40 minutes. Deborah's eyes dropped to the screen. For the first time, real fear moved across her face. Monica did not play the audio. She did not threaten. She did not explain. She opened a text thread with Jason Brooks. Her thumb moved with steady precision. Call legal. Have counsel meet me in Savannah. Skyvault is done. She pressed send. Then she placed the phone face down on the armrest. Captain Hayes looked at the phone. Deborah looked at Monica's cheek. Emily looked at the floor, then lifted her eyes again. Outside the window, clouds stretched beneath them like a white field with no footprints. Inside the cabin, every choice had left one. The last hour of the flight moved with the heaviness of a held breath. No one spoke unless they had to. Deborah stayed in the galley, standing with her back too straight and her hands folded too tightly. Every few minutes, she glanced toward Monica, then toward the phone on the armrest. She was trying to guess what had been recorded. A phrase, a threat, the slap. Her mind replayed the morning in broken pieces, and each piece sounded worse when she imagined someone else hearing it. Emily sat on the fold-down jump seat near the rear, hands clasped in her lap. She could still feel the sound of the slap in her body. It had entered her like a warning, not just about Deborah, about herself, about what fear had made her accept. She looked at Monica's cheek. The red mark had deepened. 4 fingers had begun to show clearly. Monica sat still in the forward seat. Her laptop was closed, her coffee untouched. Her body was calm, but her mind was moving with precision. She was not thinking about revenge, not the way Deborah imagined it. She was thinking about responsibility. A company that protects cruel people teaches others to be cruel. A workplace that buries complaints turns silence into policy. And a person with power has no right to use it only when the harm finally reaches them. Captain Hayes announced the descent into Savannah with a voice that tried too hard to sound normal. Ladies and gentlemen, we've begun our initial descent. Weather in Savannah is clear. We should be on the ground shortly. Ladies and gentlemen. There was only one passenger. The phrase sounded absurd now. Monica turned her head toward the window. Georgia came into view beneath the clouds. Green fields, brown rivers, long roads cutting through the morning. The world below looked peaceful, indifferent, like nothing had happened in the sky above it. Deborah stepped out of the galley as the landing gear lowered. The mechanical thump rolled through the cabin. She smoothed her uniform, adjusted her scarf, touched the gold wings on her chest. She was rebuilding the person she wanted people to see when the door opened. Professional, composed, in control. Emily watched and felt a quiet sickness rise in her throat. The wheels touched down with a soft double bump. The engines reversed, low and steady. Monica did not move. Deborah braced herself by the galley wall. Captain Hayes taxied toward the private terminal without another announcement. When the jet stopped, there was a moment of deep quiet. Then the engines wound down. Deborah moved first. She walked to the cabin door with the polished rhythm of habit. Her hand found the latch. She lifted it, pushed the door open, and warm Savannah air rushed in, thick with jet fuel, cut grass, and morning heat. She looked down the stairs and stopped. 2 black SUVs waited on the tarmac, not airport cars, not Rishair. The vehicles were clean, identical, tinted with silver lettering on the doors. Pinnacle Aerospace Holdings. Deborah stared at the words. They meant nothing to her at first. Just another corporate name, another client, another logo she had never cared enough to recognize. Then the door of the first SUV opened. Jason Brooks stepped out. 34, navy suit, no wasted movement. He held a leather portfolio in one hand and his phone in the other. His eyes went straight to the aircraft door. Behind him, 2 attorneys stepped from the second SUV. One older woman with silver hair cut just below her jaw. One tall man in dark glasses holding a legal pad already open. Neither smiled. Jason saw Monica appear behind Deborah. Then he saw her cheek. His face changed. Only for a second. But it was enough. His jaw tightened. His shoulders locked. The portfolio bent slightly under his grip. "Ms. Reynolds," he called up. His voice was controlled, but fury lived under it. "The board has been briefed. Outside counsel is present. The termination documents are ready for signature." Deborah turned slowly. Her eyes moved from Jason to the lawyers to the SUVs to Monica. Something in her face emptied. Monica stood behind her in the gray hoodie. Same sneakers, same tired eyes, same woman Deborah had decided did not belong. Only now the world around Monica was speaking for her. Deborah's mouth opened. "You're Monica Reynolds?" Monica looked at her. The wind moved softly through the open doorway. Somewhere on the tarmac, a ground cart beeped. Emily stood behind them, one hand pressed to her chest. "I told you that before we left," Monica said. Deborah gripped the doorframe. Monica stepped past her and onto the top stair. Then she paused. She did not raise her voice. She did not perform power. She simply let the truth stand upright. "I am the woman you refused to serve," she said. "The woman you searched without cause. The woman you struck on an aircraft I own, operated by a company I pay." Deborah's face went pale. Monica started down the stairs. Each step was slow, measured, final. Jason waited at the bottom, eyes fixed on the mark across her cheek. When Monica reached the tarmac, he did not ask if she was all right. Not yet. He knew better. First, he opened the SUV door. Monica turned once more and looked up at the jet. Captain Hayes stood behind Deborah now, frozen. Emily stood beside him, crying silently. Monica's gaze rested on Emily for a moment. Not with blame, with recognition. Then she looked back at Deborah. "This is what happens," Monica said, "when you mistake someone's silence for weakness." She got into the SUV. The door closed with a solid, heavy sound. And on the stairs above, Deborah Walker finally understood that the most dangerous person on that plane had been the one who never raised her voice. Inside the SUV, the cold air hit Monica's face and made the handprint sting harder. Jason slid in beside her, closing his door with a controlled pull. The 2 attorneys settled into the rear seats. For several seconds, no one spoke. The vehicle idled near the tarmac, engine low, windows dark, the private jet still visible through the windshield. Jason looked at Monica's cheek again. His anger was quiet, which made it worse. "Do you need medical attention?" he asked. Monica touched the side of her face with 2 fingers. The skin was hot, tender, alive with every heartbeat. Later, she said, "Monica," she turned to him. He had worked for her for almost 7 years. He had seen her negotiate billion-dollar contracts without blinking. He had seen her comfort employees after layoffs she fought to avoid. He had seen her take calls from governors, generals, senators, and CEOs who all learned quickly that Monica Reynolds did not waste words. But he had never seen someone put hands on her. Not like this. "I'm all right," she said. "But this cannot become just about me." Jason's eyes softened just for a moment. That was Monica, even with her cheek burning, even with humiliation still fresh in her body. She was already looking past herself. The older attorney, Grace Holloway, leaned forward from the back seat. Her silver hair framed a face that missed nothing. "Do you have the recording?" Monica unlocked her phone. The timer was still there. She stopped it. The final length showed just under 50 minutes. Jason exhaled slowly. Grace held out her hand. "We need to preserve the original file. No edits. No forwarding through casual channels. Chain of custody starts now." Monica nodded and handed her the phone. The younger attorney, Evan Price, opened a laptop balanced on his knees. "We'll create a secure copy, document the timestamp, and notify Skyvault in writing." We should also photograph the injury before swelling changes. Jason looked at Monica, asking without asking. She nodded once. He took out his phone. Here, he said softly. Monica turned her left cheek toward the window. Morning light came through the tinted glass, dim but clear enough. Jason took the photo, then another. His hand stayed steady, but his face did not. When he lowered the phone, he looked older than he had 10 minutes before. That woman is still standing on your aircraft, he said. Not for long. Monica took her phone back after Grace secured the file. She scrolled to a contact and pressed call. It rang twice. Then a man answered, breathless. Monica? I just got a message from Jason. Tell me this is not what it sounds like. Grant Ellison, Chief Executive Officer of Skyvault Aviation, had the voice of a man trying to stay calm while standing at the edge of a cliff. Monica had heard that voice before. Not from him. From executives who knew deep down that the problem they ignored had finally reached the person they could not dismiss. Grant, Monica said. Are you hurt? My employee just photographed the injury. Your senior flight attendant struck me across the face. Silence. Not confusion. Calculation. Then Grant said, I am so sorry. I need to understand exactly what happened. You will, Monica said. My counsel will send the recording. Another silence. This one was heavier. Recording? Yes. Nearly the entire incident. Boarding. Refusal of service. Fabricated security inspection. Racial remarks. Physical contact. The assault. Jason stared straight ahead. Grace watched Monica with the calm focus of a surgeon. Grant's breathing became audible. Monica, listen. We have worked together for years. Skyvault values Pinnacle more than I can say. Whatever happened on that aircraft, I promise you I will personally handle it. You should have handled it before it reached my aircraft. Before? Your company assigned her to my jet. Your company trained her. Your company supervised her. Your company decided she was safe to put in front of clients. Grant did not answer. Monica looked out the window. Deborah was still on the stairs, smaller now, less powerful. Captain Hayes stood behind her, speaking into a phone. Emily sat on the top step, head bowed, one hand over her mouth. Monica's voice slowed. The management contract for my aircraft is terminated effective immediately. Your crew will leave my jet today. The pending aerospace services agreement between Pinnacle and Skyvault is also terminated. Grant's voice broke through fast. Monica, that agreement is worth $200 million. I know what it is worth. Our board built the entire expansion plan around that contract. Then your board should have built a culture worthy of keeping it. The SUV went silent. Even Jason looked down. Grant tried again, softer now. Please do not make a final decision while you are angry. Monica closed her eyes for half a second. That word, angry. How easily it appeared when a calm black woman named harm out loud. When she opened her eyes, her voice was colder. I am not angry, Grant. I am informed. He said nothing. I will not trust aircraft operations, defense, logistics, or human safety to a company that cannot teach its own people to recognize basic human dignity. The line went quiet. Then Monica added, You have one chance to get ahead of this. Do not waste it protecting the wrong person. She ended the call. The phone rested in her hand. Outside, the jet stood gleaming in the Georgia sun, beautiful and silent, like it had not just carried the ugliest truth in the room across state lines. Jason started the recording of his own notes. Grace opened a legal pad. Evan began drafting notice, and Monica looked at the runway ahead, knowing the real landing had only just begun. Grant Ellison remained in his Dallas office, with the phone still pressed to his ear after the call had ended. For a few seconds, he did not move. The city outside his window was bright and ordinary. Traffic crawled along the freeway. Sunlight bounced off glass towers. Somewhere below, people were buying coffee, answering emails, starting their workday. Nothing about the world looked different. But inside Grant's office, Skyvault Aviation had just lost its balance. He lowered the phone slowly. His assistant, Melissa, stood near the door with a tablet in her hand. She had worked for him long enough to know when not to speak, but she had also never seen his face look like that. Grant, she asked. He looked up. Get the board on a call. Emergency session, now. Her fingers tightened around the tablet. All directors? All of them. Legal, compliance, human resources, risk management, and find out where Deborah Walker is. Melissa's eyes flickered. She knew that name. Everyone in private charter knew Deborah. Senior lead attendant. Difficult but protected. Demanding but polished. The kind of employee executives called old school when what they really meant was dangerous. What happened? Melissa asked. Grant looked down at the phone again. He wanted to say there had been an incident. That was the clean corporate word. Incident. It made blood sound like paperwork. It made humiliation sound like a scheduling problem. But Monica's voice still echoed in his head. Your board should have built a culture worthy of keeping it. Grant rubbed one hand over his mouth. Deborah assaulted Monica Reynolds on her own aircraft. Melissa went still. For 1 second, the office seemed to lose sound. Then she whispered, "Oh my God." Grant nodded once, and Monica recorded it. That was when the panic became real. By late afternoon, the boardroom on the 32nd floor was full. No one touched the coffee. No one opened the fruit tray. 12 executives sat around the long walnut table with their phones face down and their faces tight. The air conditioner hummed above them, too cold and somehow not cold enough. Grant stood at the head of the table. He looked older than he had that morning. The Pinnacle contract is terminated, he said, effective immediately. The chief financial officer, Mark Feldman, closed his eyes. That contract was $200 million, he said. I know. It was the backbone of next year's growth plan. I know. The general counsel, Natalie Pierce, leaned forward. What evidence does Reynolds have? Grant looked at her. Audio. Nearly 50 minutes. Natalie's expression changed in a way only lawyers understood. Not surprise. Assessment. Damage forming in real time. Does it include the assault? Yes. Does it include discriminatory language? Grant hesitated. Natalie's face hardened. Grant. Yes. The room went silent. At the far end of the table, Denise Coleman from compliance pressed both hands flat against her folder. She had warned them before. Not about Monica. Not about this flight. About the pattern. We had complaints, she said. Mark looked at her. What complaints? Denise did not answer him. She looked at Grant. His stomach sank. Human Resources pulled Deborah's file within the hour. The folder was thicker than anyone expected. 3 formal complaints over 4 years, all from passengers of color. One said Deborah refused service on a charter to Miami. Another said Deborah questioned a guest's credentials in front of business partners. The third was a letter written by a retired school principal from Maryland, describing how Deborah humiliated her in front of her grandchildren. All 3 had been marked resolved. No disciplinary action, no retraining, no follow-up interview with the passengers, just signatures, dates, closed files. Denise's voice was low when she read the summaries. By the second complaint, Melissa had left the room in tears. By the third, no one could look at anyone else. Natalie removed her glasses and set them on the table. This is negligent supervision, she said. If this goes public, we are not defending one bad employee. We are defending a system that ignored warnings. Grant sat down slowly. For years, he had believed culture was what appeared in brochures, values on the website, smiling crews in promotional videos, diversity statements released in February and forgotten by March. Now he understood something too late. Culture is what gets tolerated when no one powerful is watching. His phone buzzed. A message from airport operations. Skyvault crew removed from Pinnacle aircraft. Deborah Walker escorted off-site. Captain Hayes and Emily Parker awaiting internal interview. Grant stared at the screen. Then another message appeared. Aerowatch Daily requesting comment on alleged assault involving Pinnacle CEO Monica Reynolds. His mouth went dry. Natalie saw his face. What is it? Grant placed the phone on the table. The room leaned in. He did not need to say much. It's already leaking. Across the room, Denise closed the folder in front of her. The sound was soft, final. And for the first time that day, every executive at Skyvault understood the slap had not ended in the cabin. It had only begun there. By the next morning, Skyvault could no longer call it an internal matter. Aerowatch Daily published the story before sunrise. By noon, every major business desk had it. By evening, Monica Reynolds' name was on television screens across the country. beside a photo of a private jet, and the headline no company wants tied to its brand. Skyvault loses major contract after CEO assaulted on her own aircraft. The recording did what polite statements never could. It made people listen. Deborah's voice was clear. The cold doubt at the door. The fake security check. The words about who belonged and who did not. Then the slap. Sharp, clean, undeniable. For a moment after the sound, there was only engine noise. That silence became the part people remembered most. Skyvault suspended Deborah within hours, then terminated her. Chatham County prosecutors filed a misdemeanor assault charge after reviewing the recording, photographs, and Emily Parker's written statement. Deborah pleaded no contest months later. She received probation, community service, and a permanent mark in her aviation employment record that no charter company could ignore. Captain Hayes retired before the final review was finished. His name was not dragged through headlines the way Deborah's was, but the report said enough. He failed to intervene. He failed to document promptly. He chose comfort over duty when the truth was standing in front of him with a red handprint on her face. Emily testified in the civil proceedings with trembling hands and a steady voice. "I was afraid," she said, "but fear does not make silence harmless." Monica heard that line from across the room and lowered her eyes. Not in judgment, in recognition. Skyvault settled with Pinnacle under terms that were not all public, but the amount that leaked was large enough to make investors wince. More important, the court required independent oversight of Skyvault's charter division, new complaint reviews, bias reporting protections, crew discipline audits, real training, not a video clicked through while people checked their phones. Grant Ellison resigned before the year ended. A new CEO stepped in, Angela Morris, the first black woman to lead the company in its history. At her first press conference, she did not hide behind legal language. What happened to Ms. Reynolds was racist, violent, and preventable, she said. A company is not judged by the values it prints. It is judged by the behavior it permits. Monica did not attend that press conference. She was in Atlanta that day, signing the same $200 million contract with a smaller aerospace firm called Brightline Systems. The company had qualified engineers, solid compliance scores, and 12 employees working out of a modest industrial building near College Park. Within 18 months, Brightline had more than 200 employees. Some were young. Some were older workers who thought their best chance had passed. Many had been overlooked before. Monica did not call it charity. She called it good business. They were ready, she told a reporter. They just needed someone to stop mistaking unfamiliar for unqualified. Months later, Monica stood on a stage at a national aviation conference. 800 people filled the room. Executives, pilots, crew trainers, regulators, people who built systems and people who suffered under them. She wore a black suit that day. No hoodie, no attempt to hide. But when she began speaking, her voice was the same calm voice from the aircraft. "I did not cancel that contract because I was offended," she said. "I canceled it because if your people mistreat someone when they think she has no power, then I know exactly what your company does with power." No one moved. Then applause rose slowly. Not loud at first, then stronger. People stood, not because the story was easy to hear, but because it told the truth. Monica looked out over the room and thought of her mother, who had worked night shifts as a nurse and still ironed her uniform before every shift. Her mother used to say, "Baby, treat people right before you know who they are. By the time you find out, it should not matter." That was the lesson. Power does not always arrive in a black car. It does not always wear diamonds or a tailored suit. Sometimes power steps onto a plane in a gray hoodie, tired from a long week, asking only to sit down in peace. And dignity should never depend on whether someone recognizes your name. So if this story made you think of a moment you witnessed, or a moment you survived, share it. Someone else may need to know they were not imagining it. And if you believe respect should come before status, stay with us. There are more stories where the truth takes its time, but still finds the runway.